Hey there, this is Alex. Hope you're doing well. Just want to follow up on my previous video on strengths and career. And the next question that I received was, how do I articulate my strengths during an interview? Now, the most common question that people ask in preparing for the interview is, how do I answer this question? What are your strengths? So this is a very useful way to think about how to articulate your strengths, whether you're going for interview for a job, a scholarship, so on and so forth. First and foremost, very important is for you to even be self-aware about what your own strengths are. If you haven't really taken Clifton Strengths, then I highly recommend it. The profiling tool allows you to be very precise with your language, very precise with identifying what your talents are. So if you've already taken Clifton Strengths, then I suggest you go deep dive into it, look at your report, and then really understand it. And we by now know that the process that Gallup advocates for strengths development is this. It's called name it, claim it, and aim it. First, you need to know what your strengths are. You need to be able to see how they show up in your life before you know how to use them. Now, in this particular case, it's just very important for you to know how to name and claim your talent teams so that once you do that, you will be a lot more confident when you are talking about your strengths. So, number one, really know what your strengths are. If you don't want to use that profiling tool, go ask people who know you well, your colleagues, previous bosses, so that they can at least give you feedback and help you to understand what you're good at. Number two, when you're applying for a role, it becomes very important for you to know what are the key tasks and challenges that you will face. So this allows you to be able to speak directly to that role and to help your hiring managers or even the HR to be able to see that connection of why you would be a good fit or how you'd be suitable for it. Right, so understanding that role is very important. In Chinese, we have a saying, 知己知彼,百战百胜. So it's about knowing yourself, knowing your enemy, and by doing that, be able to win every battle, every war. Now, the third thing that I want to elaborate a little bit more today is about how do you then talk about your talent teams or your strengths once you have clarity of what it is, you're able to claim it, you know how it shows up. Now, I recommend people not to just show their profile, right? So some people might go and say, oh, these are my top 5 talent teams, or these are my top 5 strengths. Oh, I have empathy, individualization, developer, strategic learner, things like that. Now, if the organization that you're going for or the interviewer is very familiar with the Clifton Strengths tool, that might give you some degree of usefulness. But in most cases where people don't really understand that tool, it can do you more of the service than the service. They might misunderstand what it means altogether. So, I mean, let's say your talent team is deliberative, and you say, oh, my strengths is deliberative. For someone who doesn't know what it means, how do they interpret that, right? So avoid using just the Clifton Strengths terms directly, but instead learn to craft a story around your talent teams. Now, you don't have to craft one story around each talent team, but as you start to think about your talent teams, recall how did each of these talent team help you to be successful in your previous roles? Now, if you have had a particular project or particular incident whereby you have managed to solve a big problem or maybe managed to bring about a huge impact, maybe cost savings, maybe transformation, maybe development, so whatever it is, right? Maybe you help to build a new business model. Maybe you help to performance manage someone and someone was a poor performer and now becomes a fantastic performer. Now, if you're a student, then your stories would come from your school, your CCA, extracurricular activities, useful if you have taken leadership roles in the past or ran certain projects. So learn to wrap your talent teams around a story because that makes it a lot more tangible for the interviewer, and at the same time it will make you a lot more memorable. So there is also a model that you can use when you talk about your strengths and the stories that you want to say. And one of the ways you can craft it around is, I think it's Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. So you could look at that and craft your story around that as well, and it could be useful. Or you could use the three act approach to storytelling, right? You have your I think it's opening, your body, and your close. So now, as you start to craft these stories to help yourself make it more memorable, then you will also make yourself more memorable to the interviewers. And the thing about stories is when you're able to do it, sometimes, well, you don't even have to upfront articulate that, oh, I'm really good at this. And the better approach would be for them to even draw their own conclusions. The interesting thing about telling stories is that, sometimes now they will make conclusions on their own that you yourself have not thought of. They will be able to draw inferences from your story that you didn't even think to articulate. So once you have done all that and you have told the story, and you want to add on some meat, you can start to articulate a little bit more about, oh, so when I did this, it was because that this is the impact that I wanted to do. This was my thinking process, and this was the outcome that I had. So three things: know what your talents and strengths are, know what the tasks and challenges of that role you're interviewing are for, and the third one, craft stories to articulate your strengths. Don't just upfront tell people about it, right? Tell them a story, right? So that's it. Let me know what you think. If you like to go a bit deeper in this particular area, or you like to share some of your stories in the community and see what people say, uh, let's do that, and let's see where that takes us. So thank you very much. I'll see you again.